Somebody big just died, a 6-time Major League Baseball All-Star, a 3-time World Series champion. Vida Blue is dead at the age of 73, and here to memorialize him is Mike North. Mike, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Aldo. And you know what? I mean, this has been happening too much lately. We went through last month with nary anybody that was big enough not dying. And then all of a sudden now it's starting to happen in droves. And a lot of, you're getting older when a lot of your guys, like I said earlier, whether it was, most people, whether it's Joe Pepitone, when you're 70 years old, okay, most of them are your guys. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
And when you see people younger than you go, you understand that. Vida Blue was electric, magic, what the Oakland A's needed at the time. A guy that had no fear. He played on other teams, and you look at his teams: Oakland A's from 1969 to 1977, San Francisco from 1978 to 81, Kansas City 82 to 83, and then back to San Francisco from 85 to 86. He's the only guy that was so great with Oakland that after he went somewhere else, I didn't pay attention to him anymore.
Is that right?
I mean, he has been compared for his generation or his era, the second hardest throwing pitcher next to Nolan Ryan. Next to Nolan Ryan. The thing that made Vida Blue great was his fastball moved, but he didn't have an over-dominant curveball or he didn't have an over-dominant sinker ball. You'll hear a guy go, he throws a curveball, he throws a slider, he throws a knuckleball. Sometimes he'll rely on the slurve, and his fastball goes about 89 miles an hour. This was basically a one-pitch pitcher that he would throw the curveball occasionally, nothing devastating, just to keep you off balance. He got up to 100 miles an hour. His average speed for back then was 94, 95 miles an hour. So he won 3 World Series. When you think of the Oakland A's and their pitchers, I mean, you think of Dennis Eckersley. You think of Dave Stewart. You think of Catfish Hunter. You think of Vida Blue. I mean, if you want to talk about bona fide monster pitchers on one team, I mean, Raleigh Fingers. I mean, these guys were top shelf, top of the heap, and Vida Blue right with them.
Yep. He had this charisma about him, starting with his name, Vida Blue. That's a name made for the marquee of a movie theater or something like that. And coming out of high school, he was actually recruited to be a college football quarterback. He was a very successful quarterback in high school. He threw that ball really, really hard, but he decided to take an offer to go with the A's minor league team, and he ends up having an incredible splash into Major League Baseball. He won a bunch of consecutive games. He was on magazine covers. He was being highlighted all over. He ends up being one of the only pitchers in baseball history to start all-star games for each league, for the American League and later the National League.
Here's Vida Blue.
Well, first of all, Tony, it's great and honor to be here, and I'm happy about being a starting pitcher for the American League All-Stars. And well, to face Willie Mays and some of the other powerful stars they have in the lineup is quite an honor, and I can guarantee you they'll have all the respect in the world for me out there.
He really had a super, super career. But you mentioned, Mike, that there was some controversy in his career, huh?
I mean, you don't play on 4 teams if you got the talent of Vida Blue.
Yeah.
Now, Charlie Finley tried to trade him. Bowie Kuhn stopped that trade for competitive balance. And people said, well, Bowie Kuhn, what kind of commissioner was he to do that? He's a good commissioner. There's not teams that are going 6-28. Maybe there were bad teams back then. Some were expansion. But he thought what Charlie Finley was trying to do, and there was no love lost between them. He got his way no matter what. But I think that at the time, people were saying, you know what? Bowie Kuhn's a bad guy for stepping in. Okay, now you see basically 6 teams with only a chance maybe to win a World Series. Okay, so when he talked about competitive balance, he didn't want what's happening in Oakland now to happen back then.
Yeah, good point.
So you could say whatever you want. Oh, he was a bad guy. If Bowie Kuhn was in charge today, there'd be 2, 3, 4 teams that have used everything from tanking to rebuild to trading top line people that would be questioned. And I think we know one of them. So why is your market so big? And yet you have a salary base like some of the smaller markets. Why are you trading certain players to certain teams? I mean, that's what the commissioner's supposed to do. I mean, we saw a commissioner in 1919. We saw 8 players exonerated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he said, yeah, you're exonerated. You're never playing again. That's power.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking your livelihood away because I know what you did. Now, Vida Blue also had some issues. And when you have issues with drugs and other things, you get into other situations. And, you got to read about Vida Blue, but some of his honors, Aldo, okay? 6-time All-Star, like you said, 3-time World Series champ consecutively, 72, 73, 74. That sets them apart. You hear about the big red machine. This machine here was more impressive. Put together by a so-called owner that was so flamboyant, he had the right, I believe, to sell at that time his players if he wanted. You're doing it now all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out what the difference was. AL MVP, 1971. AL Cy Young Award winner, 1971. That's why, to me, it stops at Oakland. That's when it all happened. Sort of like when Richard Dreyfuss, the actor, says, I won the Oscar too early in my career, 1976. Okay, The Goodbye Girl. He goes, I would. Now I'm a forgotten man, and I'm still viable and an Oscar winner. But people sort of like, he was never able to really build. He had some great movies after that, but he was never in the Nicholson, which I think Richard Dreyfuss is a great actor, but some people don't latch on, and some people do. That's what happened. After he made Goodbye Girl, he made Mr. Holland's Opus, he made a couple other things, but nothing's really stuck out since that time. And that's how I compare Vida Blue with Oakland to after he left. That being said, he also pitched a combined no-hitter in 1975. He was an AL ERA leader till 1971. So you see what happened. His last year was 86. His glory years, he was like Sinatra till 75, and then he lost his voice a little bit, even though he had a couple good years after that. No pitcher or no player that I could think of is more identified with one team who played on 3 others than Vida Blue. I mean, that's just the way it is. Catfish Hunter, he went from Oakland to the Yankees. There's a lot of people that say, man, when he was with the Yankees, he was all that. Okay? There's a lot of people that think, we'll see, but when you played for Oakland, for the most part, Rudy, Bando, Hunter, Fossey, all these guys played on other teams, but they're all Oakland. That's why they were special. So, I mean, this guy here, and then he had some drug problems, which happened later on.
He has said that drugs really ruined his chances to get into the Hall of Fame. It really, was a big blemish on how the voting committee looked at him. So I
think of him as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, me too.
I know that
absolutely.
They don't have him in the Hall of Fame. To me, I know that. Look, 209 and 161. I'm sorry. That's a Hall of Fame career. If he was in the NBA, he would have been in after he retired. I mean, some Hall of Fames. Harold Baines is in the Hall of Fame. Bill Mazeroski's in the Hall of Fame. Do I have to go on? Billy Williams is Hall of Fame. Bill Madlock's not in. Vida Blue's not in. Bill Madlock's a 4-time batting champ. 4. Not 3. Not 2. Not 1. But when people keep saying, boy, Ron Santo was so this. The best hitting third baseman the Cubs ever had was Bill Madlock. Then he went and won a World Series in Pittsburgh. So there was biases back then. Believe me. Oh. Black guy shooting his mouth off with the Cubs. Ernie Banks stepping up saying, I don't know if that's the right thing. Banks making some statements. Madlock shuddered along. Vida Blue. Dominant. 209, 161. Oh, he did drugs. So did Doc Ellis, you know. I mean, if Bob Gibson had done drugs, is he not going to be in the Hall of Fame? So some things are allowed and some things for some people aren't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get your point there. It is a mystery. You would think that with so many people in the Hall of Fame who have had, criminal offenses,
Cobb.
Yeah, exactly.
He beat a fan almost to death in the stands during a game.
Unbelievable.
I don't care what year it was. All these guys, Babe Ruth, all these guys. I'm going to look at the drug thing, and don't tell me he didn't win 300 games. Nobody does.
Right.
All I know is he came in green and mowed everybody down. And nowadays, if you make 6-time All-Star, I mean, he won awards. Some of the guys I mentioned, I'm not going to pick on them, that are in the Hall of Fame, never won anything. Some of them.
Right.
Including our very own Harold Baines. Never held a record. Never did any. He played 20 some years. That's the deal. They always got something. But if I looked at Harold Baines and Vida Blue, one was a company man and one wasn't. Because Vida Blue clashed with Charlie Finley on a consistent basis.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And Harold Baines waved to the crowd. You know, it's the difference. Because if you're going to ask me to list 10 players that aren't in the Hall of Fame, I considered Vida Blue. I will always consider him a Hall of Famer in my head. In my head. I mean, people are yelling for Mark Burley to make the Hall of Fame. Tremendous pitcher.
Yes,
but Vida
indeed.
Blue
exactly
was more intimidating.
Yeah.
But wasn't as straight.
Right. You gotta, you look back at his career.
Back at the 60s and 70s, how they viewed people, certain races, certain ethnicities, and they'll go, he only made 12 All-Star teams,
Right.
But he smoked a joint in the clubhouse once. See what I mean?
Absolutely. But the one thing that strikes me is you don't want baseball fans to forget Vida Blue. You don't want
that's why we have this.
Yeah, exactly. And you want the new generation of baseball fans to learn about Vida Blue because he was such a charismatic figure. And when you saw him on the pitcher's mound wearing that crazy uniform that Charlie Finley designed.
Great uniforms.
Great uniforms.
The white, wedding gown white. They actually had names for it. Wedding gown white, kangaroo spikes white. I don't know white kangaroo, but I'm just saying. They had the green stirrups with the gold stripes. They had 3-4 different types of uniforms. They were a lot like the Pirates. And Vida Blue was built for that uniform.
He really was. He was
built. He was flamboyant.
Yeah. He had that great pitching motion where he'd lift up that right knee, almost touching his chin, and then he would throw that 100-mile-an-hour
What happened
fastball.
to the high kick? What happened to the knee hitting the ground like Tom Seaver? What happened to the Marichal high kick? What happened to the Vida Blue high kick? What happened to these guys that used to take the full windup? Now they're all going on injured reserve. They take a stretch. They take a half-ass lineup instead of doing the whole thing, getting your momentum behind you. Tom Seaver, just watch one game with him one time.
Mm-hmm.
His knees hitting the ground in the 7th inning.
Yes.
That's heart. That's effort. That's not laziness. Mm-hmm. Why doesn't somebody watch the pitchers from back then, like Vida Blue?
Indeed.
And like Seaver. And like Marichal. And none of them lifted weights. All of them pitched 30-some games a year. And now you can't get a guy to go 6 innings. Okay? And they have no idea where the ball's going. And these guys, I don't think any of the great pitchers back then spent their time in the weight room. I don't think Warren Spahn says, I got to hit the weights. I don't think Don Drysdale said, I got to hit the weights. I don't think Sandy Koufax, well, I know he didn't. I mean, he's a diminutive man, said, I got to hit the weights. It's all nonsense. And there's 12 guys on training staffs now when they used to have 2. Okay?
It really is.
It's just a whole big joke. It's a joke now what they're doing to baseball players and the injured list that they have. But Vida Blue to me. Some other things that I want to find from Vida Blue is that,
Let me add
35.
I'm sorry, say again.
35, number 35 in that gray road uniform with the green number.
Yes, yes. Ferguson Jenkins on Twitter said, we lost a great competitor and fellow black ace, Vida Blue. He won the Cy Young Award with me in 1971. First time two black men won the award together. Vida was a great friend and will be sorely missed. My thoughts and prayers are with the Blue family.
I understand bringing in race, but he was a great pitcher. I don't care what color he was. I think to tell people what he was, we already know he was black, and I understand Fergie's pride. Okay, but I think to just say he was a black ace almost sounds like he pitched in the Negro Leagues. You know what I mean? He was a great pitcher in the major leagues, and I know there's a lot of from all the reading I've done on the Negro Leagues. Sure, there's some that could have played in the major leagues, but that's all conjecture. They had one pitcher that is above and beyond, besides Jackie Robinson. That was Satchel Paige. Don Newcomb was another one. Joe Black was another one. A lot of the African American pitchers back then, they were known. But Vida Blue, if he had pitched in the Negro Leagues instead of the major leagues, he'd be a guy going. And I understand this part too. I wonder if he'd be good enough to pitch in the major leagues. And we all know what that is. But I think and I understand you have to tell people that he's black, but I knew he was black right away. I never gave a damn. I wish he pitched for us. He was a great pitcher, whatever color he was. I wish he pitched for us. That's just the way. I wish he was on the Cubs. Fergie Jenkins never once said, God, thank God, Fergie's black. No, thank God Fergie's on our team, and he's a great pitcher, and the race goes along with what you do. Your accomplishments for Vida Blue and Fergie Jenkins are a testament to your race, but they're a testament to being one of the top two pitchers in Major League history that included all races. So I just want to say, on behalf of everybody, we try to give you a thumbnail sketch on things that happened to him. They tried to trade a whole roster. Charlie Finley was going to, we'll give you Vida Blue, Sal Bando, and Rudy for 79 guys. You know what I mean? They can't, and two might be able to play, and we'd like to sell them, and we'd like to do this. Blue had a 24-8 record in 71 with a 1.82 ERA. The best pitcher in all of baseball.
Indeed.
Yep. So
he was quite, yes, please go ahead.
Condolences to Vida Blue, one of my favorite pitchers of all time. And as good as, if you want to look at careers, Gooden, Blue, compare them sometime. Gooden, boom, on the scene. Vida Blue did it a little bit longer and didn't have the controversies that Dwight has. Even though Vida Blue, a controversy in the mid-70s, a little bit different. Although Gooden wasn't far behind. You're talking 86, 87, 88. Different times, different measures, Aldo. But what a pleasure it is to talk about a great, great pitcher.
Indeed.
And man, as he turned out to be, straightened himself out, started doing charity work. And there's always redemption if you show you want redemption for yourself.
Before we sign off, let's talk a little bit about Cumberland Chapels.
What's Vida Blue going to have today? He's going to have a wake, maybe a funeral. There's no Cumberland Chapels where he's going to be, but there is Cumberland Chapels right here in Chicago, where you're just a phone call away, or maybe on your computer. I heard Mike North and Aldo Gandia talking about Cumberland Chapels like it's the biggest thing going for taking care of families that have hard situations, have decisions to make. They're renowned. And then you have the beautiful Pennyville Station, as you see right down there. Go see Tony Antonacci. Go see his dad, Tino. Go see the whole crew there. I'll be going there this week. Just to let them know that we're not making all this up, that people are actually big and dying. I mean, I can't believe what's happened this month. There's been a string of them. And you know what? I know that this is our job, but even us and even Cumberland Chapels, they'll tell you they don't need a break every so often. but it would be nice where you get a day off or something right now. Coming too
Indeed.
consistently, but God bless our sponsors also.
Indeed. For Cumberland Chapels and Pennyville Station and Mike North, my name is Aldo Gandia. We'll see you next time.